How's it going, everyone? Man Comic here with another video. So, in the last video, we talked about the cocaine sharks in Rio de Janeiro. Throughout reading that article, some piqued my interest about the narco sub that was found off the coast of Spain. So, we're going to be doing a video on that today. This article is coming from CBS News. It was released March the 20th, 2023 at 6:06 a.m. I will be leaving a link to this article in the description below. So let's get on in. Sunken narco sub found by fishermen in Spain days after cocaine-laden sub with dead bodies seized in Colombia. Silverguard police in the northwestern Spain this week refloated a homemade semi-submersible vessel, a so-called narco sub. They suspect may have been used to transport cocaine. The news came just days after a submarine with two dead bodies and nearly 3 tons of cocaine aboard was seized off the coast of Colombia. The 52-foot fiberglass vessel was discovered Monday, sunk about half a mile off the coast in the Oroza Estuary in the Northwestern. The bow was spotted by fishermen who had noticed a small oil spill, Reuters reported. A Silver Guard video shows the divers inspecting the vessel and measuring it underwater, and another video showed officers operating a towboat with a crane as the submarine's bow struck out. It was towed to a nearby port where police said they would fully investigate it, but the national government's delegate to the local Galicia region, Jose Minoz, told reporter that initial checks showed there were no drugs on board. He said police had been warned of a possible shipment of drugs arriving in Galicia. Police said it was too early to say whether the vessel had been used to transport cocaine or where it came from. Earlier this month, the Silver Guard intercepted two sailboats with more than 1,100 kilos of cocaine in waters out the Canary Islands. A similar vessel with 3 metric tons of cocaine on board was found in another northern Spanish estuary in 2019. In 2021, Spanish police seized a homemade narco semi-submersible able to carry up to 2 metric tons of cargo while it was being built in Malaga, on southern Spain's coast, del Sol. Similar drug smuggling crafts have been discovered in the Atlantic Ocean, especially off Central and South America. They aren't very common in Europe. The vessels lie low in the water to escape detection, and rarely are able to fully submerge. The submarines sometimes make it all the way to North America. In 2019, a submarine carrying 12,000 pounds of cocaine worth more than $165 million was seized by the U.S. Coast Guard. So that's the end of the water. At the bottom of the article, or at the end, they do have an image of pretty much the Navy Guard or whatever looking off, and you can see kind of like the tip of the submarine peeking out of the water over here. Um, First thoughts on this. This is interesting that like you got these guys with homemade submarines that one could barely, submerge themselves underwater, transporting over like 2 tons of like cocaine. Golly. Real quick, I'm actually gonna bring us to our next article now. Is there a connection between these two? Probably, but given the fact that when this article was uploaded, this article is by the Christian Science Monitor. It's under America's in Colombia drug war targets narco subs. Traffickers who have long run semi-submersibles up the Pacific coast of Mexico. New laws aim to crack down on the vessel's manufacturers. So this one is by Sibylla. Excuse me if I mispronounce Brzezinski on June the 23rd, 2009, Tumaco, Colombia. Lieutenant Oscar Calderon had been at sea with his men for 4 days waiting. They watched the waves as they patrolled Colombia's Pacific coastline. On the fourth night, a U.S. surveillance plane picked up a signal. The cocaine submarine had been detected was on the move. Lieutenant Calderon peered into the moonless night to try to pinpoint the vessel, which rides just below the sea surface. Every so often, the surveillance team would radio in the latest position of the sub, but the men at sea saw nothing. Colombian drug traffickers' latest transport vehicle of choice, known as narco subs or semi-submersibles, are made to avoid detection. Once loaded with anywhere from 4 to 10 tons of cocaine, gee, only about 1 foot of the homemade vessel rises above water as they make the 15-day, 1,500-mile journey from Colombia's southern Pacific coast to the shores of Mexico. It could have been 50 meters in front of me, and even with night vision goggles and everything, I saw nothing. Calderon remembers, but the surveillance team led Calderon and his men into a small jungle covered estuary south of the coastal Pacific city, and what they found there made the night long hunt worth the wait. Deep within the maze of waterways, Calderon and his men found the semi-sub that they had been chasing. Beside it laid 1.6 tons of cocaine in perfectly packed, watertight bricks, ready to make the trip north. Several days later, they found a clandestine shipyard with two other subs were under construction. They find last fall should have been among the high points of Calderon's career in Colombia's Coast Guard, but Calderon signs. We made this huge effort to seize four, but with one that gets through, the drug traffickers make up their losses, he says. That's what makes our job so frustrating. Yeah, I could bet. 42 semi-subs have been seized since 1993, with three nabbed in the first week of June alone, but the laws have not yet caught up with drug traffickers. It is still illegal in Colombia to build, transport, or possess unregistered semi-submersible vessels. So, if no drugs are found in a seizure on land or at sea, there is no crime. But a bill that gives authorities the tools to prosecute anyone linked to the subs is soon to become law. Prison sentences for those convicted range up from six to 14 years. The bill follows a new law passed last fall in the United States that outlaws unregistered subs in international waters, regardless of whether they can be shown to have been carrying drugs. Typically, crews that are detected by naval authorities open an emergency valve built into the subs to scuttle the vessels and their cargo. With the evidence of cocaine at the bottom of the sea, officials have been obligated by international law to treat the crew as castaways. The crew of one sub, interdicted in May by the U.S. Coast Guard, will be the second to be tried under a new law, according to the U.S. Coast Guard Lieutenant Brian Robinson. Colombian and U.S. authorities hope that the threat of prison will help to deter crews from agreeing to embark on the grueling journey to transport the drugs. But Miguel Angel Montoya, a former drug trafficker who says he met more than a dozen crews before they set off on their journeys, and says the new law will probably have little effect. I don't think anything will change because these organizations take advantage of the poverty in Colombia to lure crew members to make the trip for $10,000 or $20,000, says Mr. Montoya, a Mexican physician who was involved with Colombian and Mexican drug cartels until 2004. Montoya says the 4 or 5 man crews he met in the secret jungle shipyards went through a ritual the night before they set off. What kind of ritual? They were prayed to the divine child and to the virgin. Then they would be given a hearty meal. It was like they were on death row, he says, adding it was a well known secret that many crews never return, which is true. Again, back in Spain with the narco sub that was out there. The crew members must be desperate to climb into one of those coffins, says Calderon, standing on the deck of the sub he caught last fall. Today, the sub's gray-green paint is chipping at the propeller is rusting as it sits in the sun at the Coast Guard docks here. The hinges are stuck shut, but Calderon pries open the hatch by breaking the fiberglass. These are made to be disposable, he explains. Once the hatch is open, the nauseating smell of diesel fuel waves from the cramped cabin where usually 4 men make a 2 week journey. A captain, a mechanist, a navigator, and a cargo representative who make sure the cocaine reaches the buyer on the other end. For the duration of the journey, they eat canned sausages and tuna and drink Gatorade or Red Bull energy drinks. To relieve themselves, they must climb out the cabin and tie themselves to the sub so they don't fall into the sea. For big time traffickers, the subs are most efficient way to get their products to the market. A single sub that sips through the dragnet can carry as much as 10 tons of cocaine at a price about 25,000 per kilo. The subs may carry as much as $25 million worth of merchandise. The use of subs started being explored by some of Colombia's top drug runners in the mid 1990s, says Montoya. The so called Go Fast boats, as they tried to outrun the Coast Guard patrols, were being caught. The Go Fast had replaced cocaine laden planes and they became too easy to detect. Early efforts to design a more efficient mode of transport were aimed at building a tree building true submarines that can make the entire trip underwater, but the technology just wasn't available, Montoya says. In 2000, police discovered a full-blown sub being built near the Colombian capital, Bogota. Apparently, with Russian engineering, today's semi subs are made with wooden hulls covered with fiberglass. Exhaust pop pipes snake out from the engine room and down into the water to minimize the vessel's thermal signature. The hulls are shaped to cause minimum wake, and the boats ride low in the water. That's what makes them so hard to detect, Calderon says. Raul Donato of Colombia's Marines concurs. Once the semi-subs are out at sea, it's 98% impossible to detect them. That's why Colombian authorities rely so much on informants who are willing to give up their partners in exchange for cash rewards offered by the government. One recent morning, a Coast Guard team accompanied by Marines set out from Tumaco put up the Pacific coast with an informant who had told them about a clandestine shipyard hidden deep within the mangrove covered waterways. As the team patrol boat entered the estuaries north of Tumaco, the informant, dressed in a black uniform, pulled a ski mask over his face. Day had broken, and the fishermen in wooden canoes stared quizzi- quizzically at the boat ease through the countless curves of glassy water. The boat slowed where the ES-30 split off in three directions. Peering through the hole in the mast, the informant pointed at a slender, finger-tipped with sculpted nails common among men along the Pacific coast. The gunner on board strung a bell of bullets through the machine gun perched in the boat. Others on the team cocked pistols and were on alert for any suspicious movement as they approached the site indicated by the informant. They tensed and hushed at the sound of an approaching motor, but the other vessel disappeared in the maze of jungle and water. Finally, the team came upon an abandoned shipyard with strips of blue fiberglass strewn around the remnants of a small encampment. Further exploration near the ship yielded an abandoned cocaine crystallizing lab, complete with a loading dock that looked as though it had been torched before it was abandoned. The informant assumed the officer that he had been at the site just 3 days before. The Coast Guard officers and Marines picked through the rubble and shrugged. We got here too late, submarine. Maybe next time. Wow. So, this article definitely had a lot more information than the CBS article about Spain. I will say this, like, it really does put it in perspective because, yeah, that was like legit my question a few minutes ago. Like, man, like, who would wanna? But then I had to think about it. If you're in a situation or in a certain country where there isn't a lot of opportunities and you gotta put food on the table, it's starting to make a lot more sense why they find somebody to do this. Because again, you gotta look at the poverty level in some countries. Some people, some men, willing to go out and do that for their families, ready to risk life and death to make sure they get food on the table for their family. Yeah, to tell the truth, guys, this honestly been a very eye-opening thing, learning about these narco subs and things like that. Now, if you guys want more videos like this where we discuss things such as like drug trafficking for instances, or other crazy things that happen in this world that aren't comic book related, leave a like, share it with your buddies. So hey, I can make more videos like this. But without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.